Good afternoon to you. We'll begin the first of our catechesis sessions today on the subject of the importance of knowing our faith. And I want to begin with an analogy. When I was young, of course, I'd learned Gaelic from a young age, but when I would go up to the Highlands on holiday in the summertime, taking my grandmother to visit my grandfather's relations in Lochaber, and then down to where our own people were from in Ardnamurchan, the landscape became alive to me as a Gaelic speaker because I understood what the place names meant. Passing through places like Balachulish, you understood what that name meant. In Gerriston, of course, Fort William, it's obvious in English too. And then going down to Arasig or down to Ardnamurchan, you would encounter place names like Kilmorey, Killachoin, Achosnich, a beautiful name, the field of sighing, Brainanacht, and I understood what all these names meant. For my grandmother, who didn't speak Gaelic but came from a Glasgow Gael family, she didn't understand any of those place names. They were just place names to her. And I suppose even where I come from, Rutherglen is also a Gaelic name as well, in Ruach Gliaun and Cambuslang, just along the road, Cambusnalaung. Having an understanding of our Gaelic language enabled me to understand the landscape in which I lived. It brought that landscape alive. And there's a similarity with knowing our faith too. We come from a very Christian culture. Indeed, this coming year, we'll celebrate the 1500th anniversary of the birth of St. Columba, who brought that faith to our shores and also brought that Gaelic language to our shores as well. And as I said before, that faith and that language are still alive, still hanging on here in the western seaboard. And if we want to understand our culture fully, we have to understand the faith that has shaped that culture for over a millennium and a half. Even those who don't share our faith need to know something about Christianity in order to understand the culture in which we live. But for us, it's more than just a question of knowing our faith in order to understand our culture or our background or our history. Our faith is something living, and to understand our faith is to enable us to have a relationship with God. That's the first motive of knowing our faith. The Catechism tells us that we were created to know God, to love him and to serve him in that order. If we're to serve God, we must love him. But we cannot love what we do not know. And so in order to love God and to serve him, we have to know him. If we're entering into any relationship, there has to be a certain amount of knowledge in that relationship. And it's the same for our faith. Devotion is good, but we also need knowledge, because without knowledge, devotion can become superstition or magic, rather than actually having our faith rooted in reason. Pope John Paul II of happy memory wrote an encyclical in 1998 called Fides et Ratio, Faith and Reason. And the opening words are beautiful. He says, faith and reason are like two wings on which the human spirit rises to the contemplation of truth. And God has placed in the human heart a desire to know the truth, in a word, to know himself, so that by knowing and loving God, men and women may also come to the fullness of truth about themselves. To know our faith enables us to know God, but it also enables us to know ourselves in relation to God, as creatures in relationship to the Creator. So faith and reason are like two wings that enable us to rise to God. It's good to have faith. It's good also to have reason. But the two must work together. Reason without faith is just science. But faith without reason can become magic or superstition. But it's not just a case of knowing our faith for our own sake. It's also a case of knowing our faith in order to present that faith, to share that faith. And Jesus has commissioned his disciples to go and to spread the good news. But how can we spread the knowledge of the faith if we don't have it ourselves? And so going back to the scriptures, we read in the first letter of St. Peter at the 3rd chapter, verse 15, simply proclaim the Lord Christ holy in your hearts. So there's the faith element. And always have your answer ready for people who ask you the reason for the hope that you have. There's the reason element. If we don't know our faith, we can't live it with conviction. If we don't know our faith, then we can't present it to others. If we don't know our faith, we lack an understanding of our own history and the cultural background that we come from. It's true that over the past few decades, there's been a lack of catechesis, of good catechesis. And even when I was at university, I met young Catholics who'd come through the education system without really knowing their faith. And then when they did come to know their faith, some of them were quite bitter about the fact that they'd be denied the beauty of these truths all through their education. Our faith gives us a light by which to live our lives. It enables us to know God, to know ourselves, And if we know our faith, we'll have confidence in fulfilling the commission of Christ to share that faith. Thank you, and may God bless you. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.